Welcome back, everybody. So I am really excited today because while it may at first glance look like I had not gotten very much done over the week, I have popped the hell off, and I'm going to show you guys everything that I've learned. And I think I've learned more about Blender in the last week than I have ever. Hey Mika, hey Hixie, welcome back. So I'm still modeling the dungeon scene, but I'm going to show you everything that I have discovered. So it may look like I have not accomplished very much in the last week, but I learned about something called the multi-res modifier, and I am so excited about this. So previously, and this is for anyone that doesn't know about the multi-res modifier, when I wanted to make, so my workflow requires making a high poly model and a low poly model. What I would do is, if you see that the title of my file here is HP, I would model the low poly version, save it, and then model the high poly version, like sculpt, subdivide it a bunch of times, then sculpt the high poly version, and then just hope they stayed in sync. No longer. There is a modifier that you can add called the multi-res modifier, and it has 3 views. So it has the level for the viewport, level for sculpt, and the level for render. And I never render because I have my own game engine, but right now we only have 2 levels here, but check out, if we go up to 6, now you can see I've got my stone here with all of these little moss patches that I have sculpted. And now I can export that as I can export the 6th level as my high poly. And then if I jump back down to 1, 2, or maybe even 1, now this is only a 7,000 face. Oh, that's kind of a lot. I'll probably go down to 0. This is only a 1,000 face mesh now, but it still has the same basic shape as my high poly mesh. I have unlocked the keys to the kingdom. So, what else did I learn about? Do you remember, Hixie and Mika, do you remember me talking about retopologizing and how I just don't, either A, don't do it, or B, just do it poorly? Well, second thing I've learned, and I was watching, I didn't discover this organically. There is a guy called Grant, let me check out his name, Grant Abbott on YouTube. Highly recommend his tutorials and videos on Blender. This is where I've learned almost all of this, from getting the ideas from you guys yesterday or last week about better ways to do things. Grant Abbott recommended this paid tool called Quad Remesher. And check it out. So let's say, save. Yeah, it's literally just like an LOD store here. Mika said it might be useful for LODs and baking collision message. Yeah, so you can animate your at level 0, and then check it out. All the geometry would still be tied to your armature at level 4. It is the coolest modifier. And then I'll probably, on stream, I'll show you guys, if you don't know already about this tool, I'll show you what it actually looks like in practice, how you would use it. But check it out. So do you see this reasonably beautiful square topology for this tree? I didn't do this at all. Check it out. Let's say, oh, and then I learned another thing. So here, let's say that I decide this remesh tool that I want a really high geometry for while I'm sculpting this tree. So let's grab it instead of now. Oh, I actually have to apply the remesh here. So remesh will, it's like the dynamic topology, but it applies to your entire mesh. So let's remesh here. So now you can see I have a much finer and smaller vertex size. Then let's say that I'm happy with my sculpt. So then I can come in here and go to this quad remesher. So it does a phenomenal job. It's like the remesh tool, but it just does a better job. So let's say that I want to get around 1,000 quads. I enter that in here and I click remesh, and then you can see its progress down here. And then look. Oops. Look at that beautiful topology. So I can't remember. I think this tool is like a... Let me look it up before I tell you. I can discourage you from buying it. It was a paid tool, and I bought it. And it cost... So here's the pricing if you want to do this. I highly recommend it just based on using it over the week because it is saving me so much time and you get a really nice quad-based topology. But perpetual, it's $100, which is kind of pricey, 100 USD. And then non-commercial is $60. And then you can buy it's essentially like $6 a month, $5.50 a month. And what else did I learn? So many things. I'll probably get to them as I going about my stuff. But anyway, so now that I've been working on this tree, and I'm honestly debating restarting because before I got the remesh tool, I was experimenting with retopologizing, and it kept cutting away the vines or merging them together, so I've had to manually cut them away. And now I have like a lobster tree. It looks like this. And I don't want it to look like this. This is what it looks like. And I don't want it to look like that. So I'm debating starting over on the tree. I'm not sure yet. So Mika, is it too bold to assume that you are the same Mika that made that song? Because that song was so good. I'm assuming you are, but I don't want to start praising this Mika in case it's not you. And then this time I've talked about Pure Ref. Oops. These are my references that I'm using for It Is You. That song is so good. I talked to Cal all about it because he's the guy that makes music for the two of us. I definitely got a nostalgia feel, but I got specifically a space feel, like a science fiction uncertainty feel. I haven't watched your video yet on the nostalgia chord. I've heard of that term before, but it wasn't just nostalgia. There was something like retro sci-fi about it, and it was really very fitting for escaping from Area 51. All right, so what I was trying to do with these vines was create something long and wrapping around, and at one point today this week I had a nice vine wrap around, but I've clobbered too much of the geometry. So I think rather than sculpting my lobster tree, I am going to start over now with all the things that I have learned, but in case I regret it, I'm going to save him. I have two. Okay, I'm going to hide you. So I even learned a workflow for creating trees, which is something that I haven't done. And this was also from Grant Abbott's YouTube tutorial. So if I come in here and I dissolve the vertices into a single vertex, then I don't know what happened there. I'm going to do that again. Yeah, it does. I agree. It had more than just nostalgia. I don't know how you did that. It's very interesting. Did you do that intentionally, or was it a happy accident that it sounded space-like? I love the Beatles. I got incredibly lucky in lots of ways with my husband, but with regards to the music making, I don't have any music theory at all. I don't even have the proper verbiage. But I can just tell him, like, I can send him a couple of YouTube videos that are really different and say, I'm looking for a swamp witch vibe or a space vibe. And he just somehow knows exactly what I mean, and he will make me a swamp witch or space vibe song. Okay, dissolve. Why aren't you dissolving this time? Let's try a different dissolve. Well, I assume this will work if I just make... Why it gave me 3. But I'll just delete one of them and work out a few. I've never seen that happen before. I'm not sure why. I have a floating vertex here. It might just be okay. Okay, so now if I want to, I can start extruding my tree into the shape that I want. And this time, unlike last time, I went too fine with the geometry last time, and it didn't hold up to my remeshing. But this time, I'm going to try to go a little bit thicker and bolder, and then use a snake hook to try to add detail. So I want a Lord of the Rings-esque tree root kind of awning here that the hobbits hide under when they're running away in the Fellowship of the Ring. Rebuilt the walls again. Hixie, you have no idea how many times over this last week I rebuilt these fucking walls. I've rebuilt them. Actually, I've recorded this whole thing. Just like I've had the OBS recording as I've been going. I'm gonna go back and count it because this is probably the 10th wall version. Simple Electronics, hi, welcome to the stream. Are you new here? You are, the first time I catch you live. Welcome. Just plans to say pizza rolls. How's your game going so far? It's going pretty well. Oh, thank you. Then Just Plant says, alright, she seems busy. So yeah, I forgot that I had a chat going on. Yeah, I am getting my references from Pinterest. I have acquired quite a few Pinterest boards full of, I think most of it is AI generated. AI generated. Oh, thank you. No, I didn't. Where is it? Okay, Mika's saying that Pinterest has a checkbox to filter out AI generated images. Hold on a minute, let me find my stream. Maybe this isn't something that has to be resolved right at this exact moment, but yeah, Mika, let me know where that is because that would be wonderful. I'm sure every single one of these is AI generated. And I would very much like them not to be. But Pinterest over Google has a very nice, like, lead up from one set of images into the next. Winding down after a long day of work, says Simple Electronics. Yeah, work's been a lot lately. I agree. Are you a software engineer or an electronics engineer? I don't know if the AI doom has hit the hardware land yet. I'm sure it has a longer runway. We're kind of AI dooming all over the place these days. Okay. So Simple Electronics, I don't know if you've watched my previous streams, but we wrote this game engine, my husband and I, in C++ as a hobby over like since 2019-ish, on and off, in like a nights and weekends fashion. And then we've made a game for the Pirate Software Game Jam in 2024, I think, 2023. And this is our first commercial game that we're making. So my husband he's been programming. He hasn't been streaming lately, but he's been programming. He wakes up at like 3 o'clock in the morning. And I often program, but I got a little bit burned out doing ImGUI front ends. We're using ImGUI as our production UI, and so far so good. It just gets boring. Okay, so Mika says settings. Okay, I'm taking a screenshot of that, and I will save this for later. Awesome, thank you, because yeah, I would very much like to stop seeing AI crap. Simple Electronics is a 20-year mechanic who just transitioned. Today was your first day as a PCB design engineer. That's hardcore. Congrats. That is a long day then. When do they expect you to be competent in that field? Do you get, I feel like with software you generally get like a 1 to 2 sprint, or I'd say like a 1 month-ish leeway when you're joining a new company. It really depends on the company. Sometimes it's 3 months to get onboarded and get familiar with the code base and stuff, and I have no idea what it would be like for... I actually don't even know what PCB means. Hold on a minute. Oh, printed circuit board. Very cool. Oh, producer JC. Hey, producer JC. It is a big improvement from my last stream, I agree. Did I show you? I don't know if you were here, but I'm really excited about this part. So I learned, and sorry, Hixie and Mika, you have to sit through this again, but I learned that the multi-res tool exists, and what it allows you to do is store different levels of detail for your meshes, so based on the context. So when I go to export the high poly mesh, I can just export at this level of detail. So this is a rocky surface with moss, and then these will be vines. The viewport rendering makes it look a little bit weird, but they'll be have alpha on them. And then moss growing. And now I'm just working on my tree. But yeah, the multi-res modifier. So really quickly for those that don't know about it, because I didn't until you guys were giving me suggestions about various things in the last stream, and I went searching on YouTube. My first recommendation would be to watch Grant Abbott. Let me get his name right, because he was, yeah, Grant Abbott on YouTube. He's got a tremendous amount of letter tutorials, but then what the multi-res modifier does is, say you have a cube, and this will just be a brief diversion here. Say you have a cube, and you can UV unwrap it in its low poly version. Let's do minimum stretch. So then you have a nice UV unwrapped cube. Well, then you can come in here and add a modifier. It's called the multi-res elution modifier. And then you can subdivide, and if you do linear, that keeps the creases. Let's say we don't care about that. So we're going to subdivide this thing 7 times. You can see that there are about 100,000 verts, so we can go, or our faces, go up higher. And then we'll say, okay, well, in the viewport, I don't care about needing that much geometry. But in sculpt mode, I do want, so this will just save on your computer while you're working on other things. In sculpt mode, I do. So then look, now I have all of this detail here. So now I have a high poly and low poly version of my mesh, and I'm not 100% comfortable with these options yet, but this apply base will then take your high poly changes and apply them to your low poly mesh. So then if we jump back down to a lower poly, you can see that my sculpt was applied. It was back applied to my low poly version. So it allows you to, keep live just multiple levels of detail for your objects. Are you even making PCBs on your channel? I will check you out. I'm making a note of your username. How do you make a circuit board as a hobby? I'm assuming you do this as a hobby. How do you do that? Oh, producer JC's been watching Grant Abbott. Are you referring to Grant Abbott or Simple Electronics? His videos, but yeah, I'm definitely going to check it out. That I have no idea how one makes a printed circuit board without lots of machinery. All right, so what I'm doing at the moment, I am, where is my vision board here? I'm going to try to make a windy tree with 2 or 3 big nodes on it, probably 3 big nodes. And I want it to come like creeping along, the vines creeping along like it grew right over this gate here. So all I'm doing is just extruding a vertex along roughly where I want it to be. And I think it would be cool if it went and follow the geometry of the door here a little bit. So I was telling the earlier joiners that I actually do have another tree that I was working on here. But when experimenting with remeshing and retopologizing, I ended up chopping off a lot of the finer roots, and now it just looks like a lobster. Looks like a one of the babies, alien babies in the National Enquirer magazine. So I'm going to be trying to start over and staying with thicker geometry here for this first go around. Mika, you gotta do it. So Mika was saying, that's what I like when working in my game. If I get bored with one aspect, I switch to another, and if I go bored, yep, that's exactly how I feel. I love it. But Mika, you gotta redo your cave. That's the best. That's the true win of being an indie. is if you want to redo something, you don't need a justification. You don't need to talk about it in planning meetings and then never do it. You just do it. Who cares? You're probably not getting paid anyway, so do things to the quality level that you want to do them. And that is probably the reason I still want to do this so much, is I can do things to the level that I'm satisfied with, even if it takes a million years. I think that looks good. I think I want this guy. Seems unnatural for it to be crawling up the hill, but it also feels kind of unnatural for it to be crawling down the hill. Oh, I know. If I make one going this way, then it has a nice arc pattern to it. Symbol Electronics says there's free software you can use to make PCBs and you order them from China for dirt cheap. That's really cool. We have a snap circuits kit for my son, and if you don't know what those are, you can make your own, like, it's like a breadboard for a circuit, but the individual circuits are on these plastic plates that are huge and good for baby or kid fingers, so you can snap them into a grid to make really simple circuits. So that is extremely fun. And then producer JC says, yeah, Grant, Ryan King is a good educator as well. I feel like I've watched Ryan King, but it's been a while. Okay, one node is going to come out like this. Whenever my husband is ready with the song, Mika, I'm especially excited for you to hear it, because I didn't know you could make music. So, Mika, do you do everything? Because I, in air quotes, can do everything except for music. I'm not even going to try. And by do, I mean at various levels of skill, will get it done to my quality satisfaction, to my quality standards. It just might take a long time. But music is a whole new ballgame. And luckily my husband can do it, but that's crazy if he can. Hi there, Tanyan. Oh, one thing I've never understood in Blender is when and why do you have to apply transforms? Do you mostly work in world space, or do you have situations that you have to work in local space? So, things get really screwy if you are, so basically if you're, let me explain this in a good way. If you are changing contexts in any way, you're going to want to apply transforms. So if you are exporting as an FBA, I'm sure this applies to all, but here you're going to want to apply transforms, because otherwise you're going to get just absolutely crazy math. If you're going to apply modifiers, you want to do transforms, or you want to apply transforms. Otherwise, you're getting crazy math and crazy artifacts. When else? Oh, and then especially if you are going to be doing animation, you want to apply transforms. Otherwise, you're going to be... If you've ever seen animations where, like, someone's hands are in the air and then all of a sudden their wrist extends like 500 feet out into the air, and they're into the y-axis, and then their head is like 1,000 meters up, that person didn't apply transforms correctly. that's VO voiceovers. If that's what it is, you just don't ever have to have voices in your game. Oh wait, yeah, I would add, if that is what it is, I would add a new thing to my list that I don't want to have to do. Yeah, voiceovers, yeah. I don't want to do voiceovers. I feel like I'm too shy about trying. It's something I want to get better at, but putting myself in like an acting headspace would feel really vulnerable and uncomfortable for me, and I would not want to do it. But it's super cool when people can. I remember at a game jam 10 years ago, this guy that I would not expect to do this was doing voiceovers, and he like put his heart and soul into it and was so good at it. It was so cool to see. I also have a lisp for the next at least 3 months because of my races. Yeah, they do. One, if we did have a voiceover, it would be... So in one of the things I'm dead set on for this game is when you die, like the old Ultima games, the screen's gonna go black and then a skull is gonna fly towards the camera, and it would be really cool to have like a ho 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 old 80s style demon cackle. That would be super cool to have that. Okay, so I think I want this guy to come here. Doesn't feel very natural. Would never have noticed the lisp if you wouldn't have mentioned it. Thank you. I think it is subtle. But yeah, I have Invisalign braces on. I've had them on since September of last year, and the lisp is subtle but present, and now you will never unhear it. Once you figure out and memorize all the basic major and minor chords, music becomes a lot easier to write and produce. Yeah. One of my hobbies that I never actually get to is classical guitar. By that I mean I bought a classical guitar and I like to smell the sound hole because it's made out of cedar and it smells super good. And I learned one song, but one of these days, when I have more time, I would like to pick it up and actually learn some music. I don't, Amika, are you doing AI? I'm firmly no AI. So I feel like I would hire people. Or maybe I bet you could just go to a college campus and go to the theater department and like bring a box of donuts. And I bet people would do it for you. D'Artagnan has a Roland Phantom Zero, and it makes music for you with a quantizer. Oh, that's one thing that would be nice. Your timing can be completely off and it'll fix it for you. That's cool. I would like that. I don't even know what quantizing is, but that's nice. I think the United States healthcare is super screwy. Simple electronics. I'm doing all of this to get a jaw surgery, and I'm only a little bit sure that they're actually going to cover my jaw surgery. So we'll see. Okay, so now that I've got the basic tree outline here, I'm going to add a skin modifier. And then just like that, we have our basic form, and then I'm going to go into X-ray mode. So all I did there was I took a plane and then I dissolved the vertices into a single vertex, and then I went into edit mode and I just extruded vertices into the shape that I want. Then I went into object mode and I added a skin modifier. And I'm going to go back to edit mode so that I can just, what I'm going for is just a really low poly outline of these roots. I might add a couple more smaller offshoots, but not go crazy. And when you're doing the skin modifier, you want to do Control A to resize. Thank you, Grant Abbott, for that information. So you can do Control A and scale up. Should get out of. I'm not. And then for those that join later, you should check out the beginning of the stream because I bought this QuadRemesher tool. It's $100, $100-ish for the lifetime membership, but it makes the best topology for you. It's really, really cool. Topology was always just something that I did very poorly or just didn't do at all and dealt with it by like trying to paint over the spots where the UVs got all screwy because everything got screwed. But now I think I actually have a fair shot of making nice topology because I have a tool that'll do it for me. Oops. So I'm going to keep things pretty big at this stage. I was really wanting to go all sorts of really thin, complicated vines going all over the place from the roots, but I think based on retopology, or based on the retopologizer not being able to handle it, I will go a little bit thicker. Yeah, Smika says, I do what it takes to get the game shipped, but I want to make a good game, so I consciously use AI, especially for tasks I know it can handle, mostly helping me write code. Yeah, I am in a weird spot because I don't feel... I'm not an anti-AI person. I think AI is a great tool. I am anti-AI for juniors at companies. I think that either if you let the junior engineer use AI, then at merge request time you should ask them to explain their code, because I feel like the part that AI does for you is the learning part, and like the trial and error and like my code works, I don't understand why, and my code doesn't work, I have no idea why. That stressful part of learning is really, really important. But as far as why I'm not using it for this project, part of it is because my company has taken like a very, very pro AI stance, and I don't personally see where the craftsmanship is in it yet. There might be some craftsmanship in prompt engineering, but I haven't discovered that yet. But the other part is if I'm gonna go on like a no AI platform, because I feel like when people are going to start just straight up vibe coding the art and the music and the code for games, and that's very different than using AI as a tool. It's like, I don't even know how much human is left at that point, and the market's going to get really flooded. So it'll be cool to, I think people will be very attracted to something that was made by hand, and that by hand is a very slippery slope, because did I make the QuadRemesher tool? No. Is the QuadRemesher tool using AI? Maybe. Was it built with AI? Probably. I'm sure maybe their engineers are using AI to help them code. So that's a slippery slope, but I'm going to try to keep it as clean as possible, just because I want it to be readily apparent when someone looks at the game that it was made by hand. But all that to say, I'm not opposed to people using AI. I think that the most efficient way to do something would probably be to use Claude as like a debugging and research tool and like a dispatching of all the grunt work tasks, but yeah, no, but that's probably the most efficient way to do something these days. So more power to those that do. I think my real problem with AI is that, and this maybe is petty, but I pay a subscription service for so many things in my life that I feel like I shouldn't have to, that I don't want to dispatch my creativity to a subscription service. They can't have that. They can have everything else they want, but not my ability to create stuff. So I'd rather be slow and arguably produce something of, well, I'm not going to say lesser quality, but my topology will probably be worse than an AI topologized tree, but at least it's free. That's my rant on AI for this stream. Yeah, and because I handle all creative tasks myself because AI is horrible at creativity. Yeah, I haven't had it. I haven't experimented much with like the generating images and stuff. I played around with it when it was first becoming big, like 2 years ago, and it's cool, but I couldn't get it to accurately represent what I was trying to make it represent. So I would tend to agree with you. My mom loves some AI generated song. I can't remember what the band is, but she loves it. So it's over for boomers. And up. And Miko was saying junior engineers using AI make seniors essentially do double the job. Yeah, I'm kind of feeling like that. My job at work has become a reviewing of AI code. Both when I'm developing with AI, I have to review what it gives me, but then when others are developing with AI, I have to review what it gives them, which they then give me. That's cool that you use your AI to port your game to Windows. Simple Electronics runs a local LLM to do YouTube-related taxes. Wow. Have it sort and categorize my 300 AliExpress purchases a year, add up all the totals. Oh, that's cool. I had ChatGPT make me a not itinerary, what's the word? One of my fitness goal is to, because I'm a programmer at work and then my hobby is sitting at a computer, I've realized I needed a physical hobby, so my goal is within the next 5 years I want to be able to do a handstand. So I had ChatGPT make me a why am I blanking on the word? What is a schedule that you can follow for a workout routine for that. I have some my brother-in-law runs a local LLM, and that seems to be the way to use an open source model and use Claude for like Opus for the planning and then dispatch to open source models for the implementation. All right. So I'm gonna add a couple more offshoots. I'm much happier with the shape that this tree took than my other one. It doesn't have any lobster toes yet. So I'm going to add a couple more offshoots, but not go crazy, because I don't want to introduce too many more lobster toes. And then I'm going to apply the skin modifier. And then I'm going to apply the multi-res modifier and then do some sculpting. I don't think the average consumer is going to care, unfortunately, if something was made even with AI generated art. But actually, I don't know how much they will, but I think a lot of people will care, or at least will be interested in a project that is handmade. That's what I'm banking on, but that'll only be for the short term. I think in 2 to 3 years, everything will be AI generated and nobody will care. The people will have lost the fight. So I'm in a race. I've got to get this game finished before that happens. One thing I will say that's pro AI is what a technology. It is so cool. Yeah. So Miko was saying my Russian father-in-law uses ChatGPT. He doesn't speak English very well and is not very good with technology, so it's hard for him to navigate life. Now he has much more freedom. Yeah. I know a lot of people say like Jonathan Blow's take is, oh, AI is terrible and it can't do anything for you, and that's bull honky. Opus is incredibly good at doing things. Especially if you're like most software engineers where you're just you're adding endpoints to an API and you're creating forms to view those endpoints in. AI can do that, no problem. But I think even at its current state in 2026, AI is the greatest technological advancement that I have seen in my life. It will be very interesting to see if we can sustain it. He was so happy he was able to find the store where he could get the bait for fishing. That's awesome. Yeah, when I was in Japan in 2024, just the ability, I'm sure that there's AI in the computer vision for those, like not an LLM, but the technology for holding your phone up, your camera up to a sign in Japanese and seeing it auto translate to English. That was life changing. Okay. Some secret part of me that's always wanted to be, it's actually not that secret, but I've always been really envious of people that learned programming in the late 80s or mid 80s where they had to go to the library and get a book on BASIC. I think that would be really, really cool. And that part of me is thrilled by the idea of continuing on to learn C++ the old-fashioned way. Now I finally have my chance to just be constrained to a narrower space. That's what was attractive to me about people that like, I learned BASIC at a library by getting the one library book on BASIC my school had, and then taking it home on my family's Atari and coding away. That's so cool to me because I think because the problem space was so much smaller, and it's really easy to get overwhelmed by all the different choices one has these days with what language are you going to use and what are you going to do with it and what domain are you going to do it in and who are you going to learn it by and who are you going to make it for. And I mean, we had different languages back in the 80s, but I mean, even languages themselves were so much simpler. That's not the right place for a root. I don't know if Expedition 33 used to me. I heard that one very popular game did, and I don't think people were too upset by it. Maybe it was that one. And another interesting thing on the AI front that I've been thinking about lately is, for some reason, and I don't know why, I am way less, and I think culturally we all are, way less upset, or I don't feel upset about, upset's too strong a word for AI generated art, but it's distasteful to me, but I don't feel that way at all about AI generated code. I don't feel like it's taking art without giving credit to the artist. But it kind of is. I think it's, I don't know, I don't have an explanation for that one. Do you guys feel like AI generated code is less cared about than AI generated art? Hey, Galandival. You should go to the beginning of my stream, Galandival, when I show, I think it was just Hixie and Mika at that time, my multi-res modifier learning, and turn all the things on because it's going to look way better. Or it looks way better then. We were talking about AI. Mika was saying I was in Russia at that time and learned it the way we were snuggling that technical books. Custom was blocking that sort of book. Why? Oh, you were... Why was Customs blocking programming books? That's crazy. That's wild. That's one thing I'm incredibly blessed about, is to just have the entire internet, the entire world's knowledge at the palm of my hand. Which is, I know I was just complaining about that exact thing, that I want a smaller knowledge space, but I think that's easy to say when I have access to all of the world's knowledge at the palm of my hand. That would be the most hardcore thing in the entire world, is to be in Russia and smuggle in a programming book and learn programming that way. God, that would be cool. What a cool person to do that. Producer JC says, I'm interested in how programmers back in the day coded games in assembly. As a newcomer to programming, it looks completely incomprehensible to me. Yeah, we had to take a course doing assembly, and it was very hard. Agreed. Galando's hot take is that deep down most people really don't care about AI. It's 99% performative. I feel that I don't care about AI code. I don't feel upset about AI generated art, but one thing I do feel is I don't have interest. I have a legitimate lack of interest in things that were fully generated by AI. My mom, and this came to me because it was interesting. It was a psychological thing because it was learning that the thing was AI generated took the interest out of it for me. And I don't know if that means that, well, so we were in the car and she was showing me this song, and it was a beautiful song, and it was like haunting and interesting. And she's like, yeah, it was 100% AI generated. And then all of a sudden it didn't feel haunting or beautiful. It just felt empty. And I bet people feel that way as a whole. But I don't know that... Like, I think the same people that would wax poetic about people like AI is stealing from the internet, they probably also pirate games and movies. I don't think that people will care in 2 years. And I can back that up by saying I don't care if a game was made in C or C# or Python or Unity. I'm not more interested in a game if it was made by hand in C over made in Unity or Unreal or something. I only care about the game itself. But I am betting on at least it being enough of a marketing tactic to get eyes onto this project, because if I do my job correctly, it's going to look interesting enough to get people to at least think about buying it. If my husband and I get our job done correctly, it will be fun to play. And so the thing that we need to do is punch through the wall of indie games, which has always been a hard problem, but now with AI generated games is going to be a much harder problem. So hopefully this thing being made by hand will draw attention. The books were printed on matrix printers on perforated paper. So I was talking last stream about anemoia, and I don't know, anemoia being a made-up word that got popularized or was invented in a book called The Dictionary of Sad Words, or something like that. But it means a nostalgia for a time that you've never lived in. And I have an incredible, heartbreaking nostalgia. My heart is aching right now thinking about it for dot matrix printers. Because, and like reading a basic book, sitting in like an old shag carpet basement in the 80s, and I was born in the 90s. I can't quite figure out why that is, but that's really cool, Mika. And Glanville says not really. It's a tool that reflects the user, not creative people sharing, not creative AI work. Yeah. Yeah. And people will either not care or they will specifically seek out handmade stuff. Like when news became trash, YouTubers holding lab mics. I don't know what a lab mic is, but YouTubers holding mics to their mouths became the trusted source. Yeah. Yeah. I think that people will feel the same disinterest towards things that have been totally made by an AI, because I also feel, aside from the song example, I feel annoyed and disinterested and immediately stop reading when I see someone's text post that I can tell was AI generated. LinkedIn is the worst for that. LinkedIn is a cesspool, period, but a cesspool of AI generated bilge. And I think other people feel that way too. I know I'm not alone feeling that. But I don't think it's because, like, oh, you're stealing the words and the speech patterns of people before you. I think it's just that this format looks like the same format I've seen 100 times. The humanness has been smoothed away, and now it's just less interesting. And producer JC says, is this game going to have a deep story plot to it? It will have deep vibes and a very deep setting. But it's a multiplayer game, and it's originally started out as a reskin of Dominion, but has evolved quite a bit since then. But there will be a setting. It's going to be very, very dark fantasy setting. All I have sussed out thus far, aside from the different levels I'm going to have, is that so you're going to have a party. Let's see if I can pull up. Wow, I don't even have Visual Studio open. It's been that long. So I give this disclaimer to everyone. This was my high fidelity mockup, and I stole just about everything. Liberally stole it from Pinterest. The goal of this mockup was to try to get like a look and feel for the UI of the game. But when I actually go to do the high fidelity UI, I will be hand painting everything and doing it all in Photoshop and not stealing anything. But I just wanted a really high clarity, high fidelity mockup as I was building out the UI elements. But anyway, I bring this up to say that you will have a party, and story-wise, I want there to be a mystery about... So the basic story is that you and 3 others, it is a competitive game, and it is not cooperative. So you and 3 others are spawned at the beginning of a mysterious dungeon, which is actually the level that I'm doing here. You'll each be spawned at a different entrance to the dungeon, and you've been drawn towards the dungeon to accomplish something. I'm not sure what that something is, be it if it's something traditional and retro like saving a princess or getting treasure, or if it's something more mysterious. I haven't figured that out yet. But I want it to feel... I want the question to be, why does it feel so familiar? I want there to be an interweaving of anemoia and nostalgia and homesickness throughout this whole thing, because I get really homesick when I think about dark fantasy, and I'm curious. I'm exploring that in the creation of this game. But since I'm talking about the game, for those that don't know, so it's going to be a deck builder. Instead of cards, you have these rune stones that will foretell your future. And the way that it plays is you start with just a basic hand of simple rune stones, one of them being train whatever attribute your class is. So you can pick to become a mage, a barbarian, or a rogue. So you can have intelligence, strength, or agility. And so if you pick the barbarian, for example, one of your stones will be train strength. So that will act like the currency in Dominion. So at the beginning of the game, 3 stones will be drawn, and then those stones will play immediately as soon as you click this button. You don't have a choice over what order you play the stones in. They're going to play from left to right in the order that they were drawn. If you play a train strength card, then you get 1 ephemeral strength stat, which then can be used once your cards are expended. You could then use it after the enemy's turn to click this level up menu button. So what that will do is give you a skill tree where you can buy more stones, which translate to actions, using your collected points. So imagine instead of it being a strength point, it can be a currency coin. And then you can purchase more cards from this library, being the skill tree menu. So let's say that I have played a train strength level 3 and a train strength level 2, so I would have 5 strength total. Then when I open my level up menu, I can purchase a card that's worth 5 strength. It goes into my deck, and then, or purchase a stone. It goes into my discard pile, and then when it's shuffled, I would have a chance to draw it. But the thing I really like about it is that in dividing up the currencies into strength, agility, and intelligence, you are forced into a constraint, which is that it's going to be beneficial to stay within a single class, even though nothing is technically stopping you from multiclassing. But if you spread yourself too thin amongst strength and agility, for example, then your chance of drawing enough of the single attributes train card to be able to buy something worthwhile is lower. Then at the end of defeating, so you're going to have 10 waves of enemies that you try to defeat. You win the game by defeating your 10th wave before your opponents defeat theirs. There is interaction with the other players based on some simple things. It's minimal interaction. It's going to be very similar to Dominion's level of interaction. So, like, if you guys have played Dominion, you can cast curses on someone, which gives a curse card into their draw pile. So it's not game ruining, it's just annoying. And then at the end of defeating an enemy wave, then you get a chance to roll for equipment. And then at the beginning of your turn, each turn you can equip different equipments, and then equipments will play like Slay the Spires. What are those called? Relics. So you can have 4 things equipped at once, or well, 3 pieces of equipment and a weapon, and the equipment will have some kind of special modifier that is active while the equipment is equipped. There's a lot more to it, but that is the basic. So what I'm trying to do here is really make it just absolutely visually stunning. And so that's why I'm going to be piddling away until I'm happy with the result. Mika says, I have similar nostalgia about the 80s in the USA. I think it was such a cool time to live in the USA in the 80s. The time John Carmack, and you can just meet with him at this time. Yeah. John Carmack epitomizes what was cool about the 80s. I totally agree. Gladible says LinkedIn was genuinely made by by the Antichrist. Yeah, there's some bad actor was involved in LinkedIn. I agree. And I've been experimenting with Zig to replace CMake as a cross-platform cross-compile. I've never even heard of Zig. I'll have to look into it. I'm happy enough with CMake. It does what I need to do. Bali Josu, 80s Dungeon. We're building an 80s dungeon. And welcome back. Are we making PvP? No, it's... I would not call it PvP. It's going to play like a deck builder. You're mostly PvE, like player versus enemy or player versus environment, with minimal interaction with your opponent. So it is a 4-player multiplayer game, but it's not like, so it's not going to be in real time. It's turn-based, and you're generally just racing your opponents rather than dealing direct combat to them. All right, so let's call this good, and then we're going to add a multi-res modifier. And subdivide here. And then, oh, I don't like that. That got really gross in the middle here. But let's leave it at 1 for now and then try to fix this bubble. And then have you guys seen, or I mean, have you read? Yeah, it's not PvP, it's competition. I think that's right. Glandwell says I should play old school dungeon crawlers for inspiration. Right ahead of you, buddy. So I got into a discussion with my coworker who would know these things more than I do. And he had claimed that Daggerfall, The Elder Scrolls 2, was not a dungeon crawler. And he is right by the definition of a dungeon crawler based on dungeoncrawlerorg.com. So I would not count that one, but I was playing Daggerfall for a bit and that was very fun. Then I started playing Ultima Underworld, the Stygian Abyss. That is the best dungeon crawler that I found so far as being accessible to someone that did not play dungeon crawlers as a kid. And then I started playing Wizardry 6 or 7. Hold on, let me figure out which one. There was a 2-pack on Steam, or I think it was GOG, but then I also bought it on Steam because I don't really care for GOG's interface, but it was a 2-pack of either Wizardry 5 and 6. It's Bane of the Cosmic Forge, whichever that one is. Okay, yeah, Wizardry Bane of the Cosmic Forge, and Wizardry 7 Crusaders of the Dark Savant. So I started playing both of those, and both of those are incredibly punishing games, but I've probably given up on those, to be perfectly honest. But I will continue playing Ultima because that one is actually very fun. And Daggerfall because it was also very fun. Daggerfall was more fun than Ultima so far. There's just more going on, I feel like, but I was enjoying both. Yeah, I don't know why it does. Might and Magic 6. I've heard of Might and Magic 6. I'll try that one. And Wizardry 8. Oh man, I threw a dart at the Wizardry dartboard and I missed, huh? I heard that, I can't remember one of these is supposed to be good and one of them is supposed to be bad, and I have not been enjoying really either of them. If I had 10 times as much free time as I currently do, I would start a once a week stream where I'm just playing dungeon crawlers, but ain't nobody got time for that. Something's goofy here. I'm actually going to, because I haven't done much sculpting yet, I'm going to see if I can undo and fix the, yeah. So if you see here, there's some wonky geometry going on. I'm going to fix it at this skin modifier level. There we go. Rather than try to sculpt it away. And I'm not sure how to achieve this yet, but the game has to feel like magical realism, which is a genre that blends fantasy or fantastic scenes into the everyday in a really compelling way. But that's going to be tough because it's actually a fantasy game, so it's just all magical. But there's a certain vibe that is in the same neighborhood as dark fantasy and in the same neighborhood as Anemoia and Nostalgia that comes from magical realism. I'm going to try to capture it because I essentially I want to make an environment in which I feel that feeling that I'm chasing so bad. How did I make the rock face below the tree? Oh, are you talking about the vines here or this rock face? So I can talk through both of them quickly. So yeah, I did use a plugin. So if we go to okay, so this guy here is a brick wall, and then here, this is the IvyGen plugin that comes for free with, or the, I guess add-on, the IvyGen add-on that comes with Blender, and you can find that by going to Edit, Preferences, and then just check the box next to IvyGen. Then, brief aside, IvyGen is super cool. So I'm going to, this is just a brick wall with a moss brush applied to it in really high fidelity mode, but I'm gonna bump the levels down so that it doesn't bog down my PC. So let's say that I wanted to have okay, so for IvyGen, what you can do is you go into object mode, you click left click to get the 3D cursor where you want it to go. Go into create, and then IvyGen will come up if you checked it here, and then you can just check, mess around with these settings to your heart's content. Oh, I made a tiny little Ivy. If you see that right here. And then each of these you can UV map. I've UV mapped my Ivy so that it all shares the same face because I'm just gonna have a single leaf with alpha behind it, which will then be applied to every single Ivy here. But the cool thing about IvyGen is you can't really see it here because this is so small, but it will align on your curves. And producer Cease was out of curiosity, why did you decide to go down the 3D route rather than the 2D art route, considering the throwback to those older games to give it a more modern take? Because it would, I think it will take less time. And because, for another reason, I am so happy with the shader that I've made for the game, for my game engine. So we have one shader or not one material. We have one material in the game engine. It can do precisely one look. Actually, it can do a lot of different looks, but it has precisely one material. And it can do a kind of retro, distorted, like pulp magazine effect. If you get like pulp magazines, so like imagine like if you're going to get a paperback book from the 70s or 80s and it has like Conan the Barbarian painted on there and he's like all muscled out, but painted in a very specific way. I can do similar-ish things in my shader. It has like a toon-ish effect to it with an outline, and then it has like a gradient that you can apply over to it with a distress mask. And all that being said, I think it's actually just easier to make things in Blender than it is to draw them. But I will be drawing things like this guy. I don't know if I have a better picture of him anywhere. Let's see. I don't think I anymore have a picture of my barbarian that isn't pixelated, but like for anything that I do have to paint, I'm gonna go for a pulp effect. Like if you can see, this is, I applied a pixelation filter in Photoshop, so it's not what it was at the original, but I'm going for like a, that's hard to explain, but like a kind of chalky painted look where it's a few simple colors rather than a somewhere like a stylized look maybe, so that it looks like a pulp magazine. That's not represented here at all, but this is actually this, and what you'll see when the game is live is a version of the material that I was talking about, but not. I had an idea the last time that I was working on the game, or like the material in the game. I had an idea that it would be really cool to tone map, and it would be cool to tone map, but I've since discarded that. So the reason I'm doing such high poly stuff here, high poly stuff in Blender, is because I'm going to bake the textures into my normal map so that the detail can get picked up by the shader. But I want to show you one thing. So I have this color override that I was really thrilled about because I wanted to make it look like a Black Sabbath t-shirt, for lack of a better word. And it does, I achieved the Black Sabbath t-shirt effect, but now I don't want to go Black Sabbath t-shirt anymore. Which is the, I will say one of the bad parts of being an indie developer is there's no one to rein you in and be like, are you really sure you want to invest a week on building a tone mapping feature when you're not sure you want to tone map? But anyway, using this shader, and then my high poly to low poly workflow, I think it actually will be faster than trying to draw all of the assets by hand. And don't get me started on pixel art because, well, thank you. Don't get me started on pixel art because I can't do it. That is a skill that I don't possess. Okay, let's... I only know one magical realism movie, Amelie. Amelie's really good. Pan's Labyrinth is another good example of a magical realism movie. And then there are a lot of magical realism books. I'm a huge fan of Haruki Murakami. He is a Japanese author. He's a weirdo, but he has some really, really cool books. And then generally, magical realism is tied to books that came out of Latin America, like 100 Years of Solitude is a very famous one by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. That is an incredibly good book if you've never read that one. I feel a little weird recommending Haruki Murakami because he's not for the faint of heart. He's a strange, perverted human being, but I really liked his books. They're very cool. I feel like I've recommended them to some of my coworkers, and I always feel like I would be put on a list or fired. Then, speaking of being on a list, Neil Gaiman has a poem called Instructions that was in one of his anthologies. And my God, is that a beautiful poem. That's actually in my reference art for this game because I love it so much. Okay, let me try to something's goofy here and I'm not exactly sure how to fix it. But I want to fix it at this level rather than trying to sculpt it away. So let's see if that will work. Yeah, nice. Okay. So I only need one level here for sculpting. And then now I'm just going to use the sculpt brush at this medium resolution here to get things where I want them to be. Mika, you're a Murakami fan? Yeah, he's great. I love him. I've never felt the way that his books make me feel unless I'm reading his books. My favorite one, they're all, the ones that I've read, I like them all, but my favorite one is tied between Hard-Boiled Wonderland and The End of the World, and 1Q84. Ichikyu Hachion. So I don't need any textures then, right? Just the material through my shader. Yeah, so I will show you more or less. So the workflow will be, so I have this very nice high poly cliff over here. So let's say we have our nice high poly version. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to export this as an FBX, both high poly and then and actually I'm realizing I used the hardness on my round brush here for the moss, and you can actually see the circle stencil, so I'm going to go back and fix that. But so export this FBX as in high poly mode with all 14 million triangles, and then come into the multi-res modifier and bump it down to a 0 or maybe a 1 because we lose quite a bit of geometry at 0, and export this as my low poly mesh. Then I bring it into Substance Painter, and all I do is I grab that, I bake the high poly onto the low poly, and just grab that in world space normals. And then I do a basic coloring for the, so I have 2 textures total. I have my normals texture, and then I have a base color texture, and the base color textures are really, really low detail. But yeah, it does, I think it will save time. Yeah, that's exactly the hallmark of magical realism, is weird stuff happening and the hero not reacting in the way normal people would react. That is exactly the definition of magical realism. And I just love it for some reason. It makes me feel very just very odd and off-putting. Yeah, the wife disappears and the hero goes to cook pasta, exactly. Or the hero gets trapped in the bottom of a well and is not overly disturbed by that. Or in Killing Commendatory, the hero hears a bell being rung in a grave, at the bottom of a grave by his house in this cabin that he's rented. And just isn't, he's interested in it, but like in like an educational way, not like in a call the police kind of way, or a supernatural kind of way. Galanda started working with undue history buffers and I'm going insane. Are you... Tell me you're not trying to code undue history buffers in the O3DE. That'd be crazy. I would never want to do that. I say that now, but my husband has coded essentially an undue history buffer in the network logic. So the network can actually like keep track of all your states and then roll them back to a previous state, which is so far beyond me. Good on you for doing that, Glandable. I'll go in the opposite direction here. So what I'm doing here is I'm just coming in with a at a fairly medium to low poly level, just to make the basic shape of the tree. And when I'm happy with it, I'm going to use this very cool new tool, the retopology, the remesher tool. And then I'm going to go into my multi-res tool and knock. Actually, I might just be happy with that as is. Okay, so let's see if I even need to. I don't think I need to retopologize that at all. Let's. Yeah, that looks fine. So, oh, go to sculpt. Smooth. I'm going to try to apply base, see if that. Yeah, something screwy in there for sure. Blendable says I am, but in a way that can take multiple simultaneous contexts without. Oh my god. I want to give up after just planning out how I will do it. Yeah. Yeah, that sounds really tough. Do you have any kind of context or any like context for what any ability to have a buffer of undo history states right now, or is it? Do you have an undo button? Because I wouldn't even know how to consider what a state is. I wonder why this got so strange. I also don't have an undo in my editor, Mika. Who needs one? Who needs one when you can just undo and redo and get like Hixie said. Or Mika said. Yeah. So D'Artagnan's saying I can use all the select all faces, but yeah, if I do that, it'll select my entire tree because it's all connected. But thank you though. I just want this little bit. I took all of your guys' advice last stream and popped off to the power of 10 by Googling all of the ideas that you told me and then learning from Grant Abbott how to do them. What is wrong here? Yep, fine. We'll just get rid of this entire node. so if we go back into sculpting. Oh, okay, now I think we want to try reshape. I think that, no. Okay, let's take, what if we try our nice remesh tool that we've got? So not create, oh, there it is, quad remesher. Let's try 10,000 is fine. Let's see if it'll go. No, I wouldn't fix it. So let's, oh, but now you are allowing me to see the, oh, because I'm crossing streams, I have a, shoot, I didn't want to do that because I had my multi-res modifier on. How do I fix you? Let's go back to, oh no, I've gone and done it now. So I've had not only Blender crashing lately, but my entire computer crashing. This happened to me twice. Luckily, I've been a compulsive saver since for like 15 or 16 years, so I never have to worry about losing too much. Thank you for that tip, though, D'Artagnan, because I have, I listen to everything you guys tell me, and then I go and try to figure it out off stream. If it's something new. How can I... What if I try sculpting and just trying to smooth you away? What happened? Okay. That is not gonna work. Okay, you know what I can do is I can apply this. Apply, and then I can fix it. I can get rid of less here. I don't know if my temps are too high. I actually haven't looked in a while. Last time I thought it was the problem. It was not. I bought this computer from Best Buy, and it's a, it was a pre-built, but it came with an RTX graphics card for much cheaper than, almost just for the price of the graphics card. So I thought, oh, what a great deal. But then it turns out that this specific motherboard absolutely sucks. And for example, I can't put the computer into sleep mode. I just haven't been able to for years. And it will crash for lots of different reasons, but it started to crash more often. No. And I don't think, okay, maybe the Ultric, no, it wouldn't. I don't think it's heat related, but that is something to try. Okay. What? Here's a trick. Yeah. So this is the merge by distance tool, which you gotta be pretty careful with because it can do a lot of damage really fast. But I think in this case, so what it does is it just merges vertices based on their distance. But I think it's exactly what I need here because I'm going to do my retopology here in a second. And I think that will do it. Yeah, thank you, Producer JC. I'm going to get my temperature popped up here so I can keep a watch on it. That is good advice. Why are you pushing in? Huh. Okay, so now we'll be able to really show off this cool tool because where did it go? Is it? One thing I don't quite get about Blender is where my plugins and add-ons go. Oh, because Blender crashed. That makes sense. Okay. So let's try the remesh now, and we're gonna target something like 10,000. Animal says I reminded myself of a PR I saw where someone used an actual ASCII arrow symbol instead of the pointer symbol in C++. I was like, at least check it if it works, if you're vibe coding the fix. What is the ASCII arrow symbol? No. Really? So it's like literally like pointer this? And then, holy cow. That's really funny. That's amazing. Okay, and then look at that, you guys. This is I don't think I've ever seen a Blender add-on worth as much money as Quad Remesher. I'm an unpaid shill for Quad Remesher. They do not sponsor this video. Alright, true to form, I have chatted away my whole hour and done very little. But I've been keeping my camera on, or my OBS recording while I've been doing this, because I want to try to compile it, the whole creation into a short. But, so you'll be able to hopefully see the gaps in between. But, that's it for me for the night. I will almost certainly be streaming again this Thursday. That is my plan. And definitely still working on this dungeon scene. I'm going to sneak a few ASCII arrows into my next MR and see if my husband catches them. That made my whole day. Thank you guys for hanging out. It's really fun getting to know everybody and chatting. It's very cool. Yeah, I'll see you next time.